couple of weeks ago I was at the Central Mosque. There's a janaza, there's two janazas, and as we were leaving, the Imam said there were also two nikah, two weddings happening. And I thought, subhanAllah, there are two families which are mourning and two families which are celebrating. And this is the thing with this world that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. It has highs and lows, there's ups and downs, there are happy moments, there are difficult moments, sad moments. And the first thing I think we have to understand about the world we live in, because if you don't get this concept correct, then it actually creates more, or creates other problems. So one of the things that you find, especially in the Western world, which is pushed, is that you should look for happiness. Okay, you should be happy in your marriage. You should be happy in your job. You should be happy all the time. And if you're not happy, you need to do something about that. So the goal of life is happiness, and so therefore you will, try whatever you can to create that feeling of happiness inside you. And what happens is, if your goal is happiness, you're going to get disappointed. Because if you go to a junkyard and you are looking for, or you go to a second-hand car dealer and you're looking for a brand new car, you're not going to find it. You're going to be disappointed because you're looking in the wrong place. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He describes paradise, Jannah al-Firdaus to us, what does He say? There is no toil, there is no difficulty, there is no work, it's just pleasure. It's happiness, basically. It's happiness all the time. There is no problems. So happiness all the time is something that is preserved for paradise. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created that place for happiness. But this world He's not created for happiness. This world, the name of the world, dunya, even the word dunya means lowly. Dana yadnu means to be low. Right? So even the word means lowly. The dunya is lowly, it pulls you downwards. And there's a quote by a famous scholar in America, his name is Dr. Amer Jamil. And he had a quote on Twitter. He said, "The world is a testing place, not a resting place. The world is a testing place, not a resting place. We're here to be tested, not to rest. The rest is in the Akhirah." And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us, which is why we've always got to understand the function of this world that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created is to test us. We will be tested throughout our life from beginning to end. And tests, if you think of exams, nobody enjoys the exam, do you? You're kind of nervous, you're kind of thirsty. You're not sitting there thinking, I wish I had another hour because I'm enjoying myself so much. Nobody enjoys the exam. Okay? And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, that He will test us with what? Khawf, fear, ju', hunger, wa naqsim min al-amwal, loss of property, so you make less, you lose a job, your property goes, your inflation goes up, your money is less. Wal anfus, which is lives, and your crops, your agriculture, your produce. And then what does it say? وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ, and give glad tidings to the patient. So when you have difficulty in life, the appropriate response is sabr, is patience. And if we look at the lives of the prophets, and they're the most beloved of God's creation from beginning to end, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's prophets are chosen ones. If you look at their stories in the Quran, did any prophet come and say, people, be happy, find happiness? No. They all called to the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And did they have easy lives? No, not a single one. If you look at any story in the Quran, Nuh alayhi salam, 950 years of da'wah. Right? Very few people became Muslim. Yunus alayhi salam, He gets so fed up with people, he leaves, and then he gets swallowed by the whale. Yaqub alayhi salam, he grieves for 40 years because of the loss of his son until he goes blind. Yusuf alayhi salam gets put into a well, then he gets sold into slavery, then he gets accused falsely, then he goes to prison. So if you look at all the prophets, none of them had easy lives, all of them had difficult lives. And so the same thing with us, we shouldn't look for the wrong thing in the wrong place, right? We don't look for happiness in the dunya. We are told to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We didn't create man and jinn except to worship me. So the purpose of our life is to worship God. Yes, there'll be points where it's easy and there'll be points when it's difficult. And so the formula that God's Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us, okay, when you're going to have these highs and lows, how do you deal with life then? So it's summarized in a very beautiful hadith, which I'm sure everybody knows, but it's a hadith which we should go over, and it should be one of those hadith that is always there on the tip of your tongue, because you need to remind yourself, because the human being forgets. Ajabun li amri al-mu'min, wondrous or strange is the affair of the believer. Inna amrahu kullahu lahu khayr, that all of his affair is good. So the believer, the one who believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his state is always good. Doesn't matter what's happening to you. If something good happens, so something's good happening in your life, you're getting married, you got a promotion, life's going well, then what is the appropriate response? Shukr. To be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you're grateful, then shakartum azidannakum. If you're grateful to Allah, He will increase you. So when times are going well, you are grateful. And when times are going difficult, what do? Sabr, patience. So this is the two kind of responses you have in life. You're either being patient, sabr, because of the difficulty, or you're doing shukr because you have a joyous thing, or something is going well in life. So these are two responses. You can see the two S's, either shukr or sabr. These are the two things that we live our lives by. And every person's different, everyone's test is different. So as a community, our test is different from, say, a community in, I don't know, Pakistan or Australia or America. In fact, there was a discussion with a group of imams, and some of the American scholars, there was a discussion going on. The American scholars said, look, with all due respect, British scholars, that you don't understand our context. So even in the Western world, they're saying, look, you don't understand how this country works and the dynamics, etc., etc. So we, reserve your judgment because we know what's happening, you don't. So every country is different, every community is different. So as a community, the challenges are different. And then within the community, every single person's challenge is different. So all of us, we have different challenges. Somebody, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives illness to, long-term illness, that's their challenge. Another person is struggling to get married, that's their challenge. Another person is happily married, can't have children, that's another challenge. Another person, no matter what they do, whichever job they get, keep losing it, that's another challenge. Another person's business doesn't make money. It goes, there's a variety of ways in which we are tested. Some people had a very good upbringing, some people had a very difficult upbringing, and this obviously varies from person to person. So each one of us, I have my own test, you have your own test, everyone's got their own test, and even within your own family, your children might have different tests. One child might struggle academically, another child might not struggle academically. One child might find it difficult to make friends, the other one doesn't, and so on and so on. So we have our own tests, and what we need to teach ourselves and remind ourselves and our family members that, look, when you have difficulty, do sabr, Allah will reward you. And when something is good, do shukr. And generally speaking, as a general point, those living in the West, as a general point, obviously, as I said, it's individual, but many have said that in the Western world, generally our test is to do Shukr. And generally in other parts of the world, poorer parts of the world, it's Sabr. And in fact, Shukr is actually harder than Sabr. Why? Because when something difficult happens, you have no choice. You're stuck. The only option you have is to do Sabr. But when things are going well, it's very easy to forget to do Shukr. Because life's going well. Only when life starts going difficult, you start doing dua again. Right? So, doing Shukr is actually not easy. Doing Shukr is something we've got to train ourselves to do. And difficulties never last. So if you're going through a difficult period, don't worry, it's not going to last forever. Nothing lasts forever. Everything goes up and down. And we have to understand that the Ummah was always tested. Right? We were always tested. It's just that every single person or every community's test was different. So if you go back to the Mongols, right? The Mongols who for about 100 years took over most of the world, or the middle part of the world, and then they became Muslim, as you know. They say that the Mongols killed 10% of all humanity at that time. They wiped out 10% of the world. That's how bad their fitna was, right? And the Muslims obviously took the brunt of that. Baghdad fell. They spread all the way across the Muslim world, but the Muslim world then obviously recovered. Right? So if we were alive at that time, you can't think of it. If your tribes getting attacked, massacred, right? So obviously that was their test of their time, and we have obviously our own tests. Like maybe it's not financial difficulty, maybe it's like ideas, ideology, and so forth. And from the signs of the end of time, we have to also understand there's always going to be an existence of good and evil. Good and evil are always. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created everything in balance. Everything's in balance. This whole world is in balance. As you know, with all the discussion about climate, what happens when you mess up the balance, right? It's not good for humanity. And so everything is in balance, mizan. And therefore, to have good, you need the opposite, which is evil, to balance it out. And so, even in the Quran, it tells us from the beginning of mankind, you had Habil and Qabil, two brothers, opposites. And these two are archetypes for people. Fir'aun Musa, again, the Prophet's son Abu Jahl, right? These are all characteristics. They're basically archetypes, and people fall into these characters, right? Which is why the Prophet said Abu Jahl was the Fir'aun of the Ummah, because he had the same traits. So good and evil always exist. So we should not expect to just have an easy life, right? We're supposed to be tested in this world. There's evil supposed to exist, and then you're supposed to counter it with good. Which is why whenever we have difficulty, we do not despair. We don't despair, and I talked about this last week, that it's always important to have a good opinion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Irrespective of what's happening to you, irrespective of what has been put in your way, you do not know where the khair is. You must have heard of Muhammad Iqbal, the very famous poet, who he had the idea of having an Islamic state, which became then Pakistan. He passed away in 1938 before Pakistan became a reality. But he put you could say the thought of it, or the idea. It's interesting, many years ago when I was reading his life story, it said that in his 20s he got a job offer, and he really wanted this job, and he didn't get it, and he was very naturally upset because he didn't get this job. But because he didn't get that job, he then went to Britain to do his PhD in Cambridge. And it's those 3 years that he spent in Cambridge which made him basically change his ideas. So when he went back, he was a different person. So he would not have become who he became had he not done those 3 years in Cambridge. And he would have went there had he not got the job. So something that he thought, okay, I didn't get the job, I'm upset. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had a different plan for him. So we don't know what is what's set in plan for us, and that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Sometimes you wish something and it's not good for you, and sometimes something which you think is not good is actually good for you. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. So in summary, when we have difficulties, our response is sabr, and we will have high points or good points in our life. The challenge is to do shukr for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, gratitude, be grateful for what you have. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam.